Yeah, I mean, listen, I think everyone was disappointed the other night, and the things that we didn't get right, we try to address in a really short amount of time. And I think that's just trying to identify where some of the game got away from us. And I think a lot of those things are controllables, and that's something that if we're going to take a positive away from that result the other night, we can see the mistakes we made and know that collectively and individually we can improve on those moments. And those are the moments that I don't think you've seen a lot in terms of making mistakes this year. We've been pretty consistent in a lot of areas. But if we don't correct those this weekend, then one more time we're playing against an opponent that will absolutely hurt you. And I think we're going to be in the right state of mind, and hopefully we can stay focused throughout the entire 90 minutes to give ourselves a chance.
But do you expect Lesesne to play?
I really don't know the answer to that. I would assume that he was rested potentially with the injury that he had, and or maybe whatever was going on, and so they said Wednesday we don't want an away trip for him to travel and then potentially risk himself to not be available for a home match. That's what I would guess, but I really have no idea.
So how do you prepare with an opponent with or without such an important player?
Yeah, it's not easy. But what I would say, though, is the way that we're going to try to go about the game, I think the match plan is with him in it or if he's out of it, because we have to also recognize if he does play, obviously we've brought some attention to that, but if he doesn't play, there's a lot of other players that we have brought attention to in terms of what our match plan is and why we need to execute it in a good fashion.
Thanks for the Tiger. Coach, it's almost exactly a month since the last time you guys played Miami. What's different from this team 2 months ago in March to now?
I think that we've built a little bit more in terms of our foundation, and you're seeing that more consistently than a couple months ago when we played Miami. I think in that game we started off extremely well, not only because we went up in the game, but really the first 30 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, we were on the front foot, and then the game started to get away from us a little bit. And one of those factors is because of the quality they have, and they're a good side. But then I think a second component of that is us figuring ourselves out a little bit more about where we can grow and develop, and that's where we've become more and more consistent over the last few weeks, with the exception of the other night.
Now we'll take some from Zoom. Matt?
We'll go to Dave Johnson.
Hey, Troy, when you mentioned correctables, could you just expand on that? Is that about communication so you don't get exposed, or just what were you referring to?
Yeah, I would say it comes down to those moments in the game. It's easy to hyper-focus on the goals whenever you have those moments go against you, but they're part of our game model. So when the ball is in the opponent's half and Red Bull are able to play a ball first time out and our rest defense isn't exactly organized, that's something that we take a lot of pride in, and we weren't organized in that moment. So while it's an unbelievable goal for the first one, we feel like we can prevent that. And then, a couple of the first and second ball moments where we don't have the best action in the second ball moment, and maybe we play a little bit too short, and the opponent picks us off and is able to go in transition. One more time, that's something that we try to take a lot of pride in and say we're going to try to create more of the chaos than the opponent creating chaos against ourselves. And then the last thing is just some of the turnovers we had. I think we, in attacking transition and then even in the run of play with the ball, we just weren't clean enough on the night. And I said that post-match, and I think that's where a lot of our momentum is generated, is we have ball wins and then we go and attack in transition, and we're the second most dangerous team in the league by the objective stats in that regard. So, we have to highlight the areas that we're really good at and make sure that we capitalize. Otherwise, we're not being ourselves.
There's all kinds of stats are thrown out. And this, I'm old. I remember we didn't think about stats, but the possession stat gets thrown out, and it seems like you have more success when you have less possession. Is that a fair statement, or it really doesn't mean anything, or your thoughts on that?
I think it depends on the match. So, I think back to Portland, and we had about the same amount of possession that we had the other night versus Red Bull, and I think we were more effective with our possession against Portland than we were versus Red Bull. And then there's the different dynamics of the match, right? So when you're down a goal, I think inevitably, no matter who the opponent is you're playing, you're probably going to start to have a little bit more of the ball because you're pressing to tie the game up. So I think there's different ways to look at that. I wouldn't say it's a hard line and it's black and white one way or another. If we have less possession. It means that we're in more control. It just depends on who we're playing against and what the circumstances of the game are.
God, I'm glad to hear you say that because I'm not smart enough to look at the stats. So that's good to hear. Great match. Hey, Lucas Bartley got his first goal. I told him it was going to come. And I think that's the first of many. I mean, he's another weapon on headers that we should celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big positive from the other night, not only for Lucas, but I think in general for attacking and defensive set pieces where maybe we haven't been quite as tight in the last few matches. And in both phases of set pieces, we were really dangerous. Good service, good targets, and to your point with Lucas, it's great to see him get his first MLS goal. He's been knocking on the door, and he is a weapon. I think we have a number of weapons that we want to try to maximize, and we're going to need to do that this weekend. Those moments will be big versus Miami.
Thank you.
We'll go next to Bruce Murray.
Hey, Troy, how you doing?
Good, man.
Hey, in the New York game, I mean, the pace of the transition from New York was unbelievable. I mean, if you're a defender, man, it's like, wave coming at you, wave after wave after wave. Is there a fix for that? Maybe another man, or is it something that right away you got to get organized and you, as you said, losing a little bit of concentration. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fix for us is, especially an opponent like that, and really even Miami this weekend too. It's about when we have the ball, making sure that we finalize our with the ball moments in a little bit better fashion. So if we're giving the ball away too easily, then that means that we can't get set quick enough and rest defense and be able to counter press. So I think that there's a couple things that happen before those attack and transition moments happen, and those are the things that we definitely identify that we need to work on.
And the other question I have is it's obvious that this team can compete. I mean, you go on the road, against four of the best teams in the league, crazy atmospheres, and then a game like on Wednesday that we drop, just saying, you must be asking yourself, or how frustrating is that, or is this a process where you're going to start stacking up wins at some point because you know that you have the ability to compete?
Yeah, I mean, it's only frustrating because I think that the goals that we give away are things that we can control. I wouldn't say when we're at home, 3 out of our 4 wins are at home. So we have to look at that and say that's something that is positive. And then the other matches that we either drew or lost, we were up, I think, in every single match at home. So we're with the exception of Red Bull. So we're doing things in the right fashion at home, and I think we need to close out a few more of those matches. But I think we can compete against anyone. This weekend is another challenge in a completely different way. But I think we're going to be ready. We're going to respond from the other night.
Thank you, Troy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bruce.
One more from Steven.
Christian has carried such a large scoring burden this year, and he's created for others as well. At this point, though, are you looking for that second score, that second dangerous, lethal element there?
I think it would be helpful, and we're getting a number of guys. A number of guys have had a goal, and we're looking for Koo, Jared, I think Aaron Herrera, Clicky, Gabby, Martine, Fletch, those guys that are playing off of him. Jacob Merle is someone that got his first goal. Those guys, I think, will create moments with Christian. There's no doubt about it. But I have to tell you this, though, Steve. A lot of teams are looking for a primary goal scorer, and we have one. And so the secondary goal scorer, we're going to create chances, and someone else is going to step up in those moments at the right time. But we're going to keep using that weapon as much as we can, and I'm really happy that we have that guy.